What is your got caught masturbating story? Does fake masturbating count? I was in boarding school and we weren't allowed to have computers or electronics. I was in my bed playing with my PSP when one of the supervisors comes and I panic and hide my PSP under the covers and he didn't see it. He comes over to me, already suspicious, and asks me, "What are you doing?" I didn't want to lose my PSP, so said masturbating, and he believed me. PSP saved, caught after the fact. I was in my early teens when I discovered the joy jacking off. Then my mind was truly blown when I discovered I could beat it up in the shower. After the first week or so of just carelessly painting the walls of the shower with my baby batter, my dad comes into my room and says, "If you're going to blow your nose in the shower, make sure it goes down the drain." I scratched my head and with a confused look I responded, "I don't blow my nose in the shower." To which my dad responded, "Just make sure it goes down the drain." Spent a summer sleeping on the couch at my grandpa's when I was about 14. Decided to rub one out one night and about midway through just hear "Oh god damn it" as I see Papa shuffling back to his room. When I was about 11 I technically got caught mashing my meat to SpongeBob. Back then I'd jerk off to those top celebrity beach body compilations on VH1 or whatever. But they had commercials, and I wasn't hanging around for that. So I had switched to another channel during the breaks, but sort of keep things going. Anyway, the result of this was that my older brother walked in on me, and I had just switched to Nickelodeon. I'll never forget him saying to SpongeBob? And leaving the room dying of laughter. Okay, so this was in university, so I wasn't new to jerking it by any means. But I was taking a class called apiculture, which is the study of bees and pollinators. Anyway, one afternoon I am going at it by myself in my room at the place I was renting. It's a older house, so the doors had no locks. My roommate knocks on my door right around the time I was almost done my task and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I just say, "Reading my B-book." Then he just opens the door and I'm standing up facing my computer with my junk in my hand just giving her. I yell, "Get out, I'm reading my B-book." He slams the door and walks away. From then on the slang term was reading my B-book. When I was young, I was curious about tits, so I opened MSN search and searched boobs. A message comes up saying the search was blocked, so I decided that this meant I was going to get arrested. In tears, I told my parents what I'd done, but to save myself from embarrassment I pretended I just misspelled Pokemon. Yeah, in hindsight they probably didn't believe me, not me but a good one nonetheless. My wife told me her best friend wanted to invite everyone over to her new pool. We pack up the kids and head over where there are about 5-6 couples and about a dozen kids or so. The husband of said friend stated to everyone that unfortunately he had to leave a little early as he was on call utility guy and was going in to shower. In about 10 minutes or so, the lovely summer vibe music over the Bluetooth speaker turned to something more, aggressive. It was essentially the sounds of slapping, sucking and potty talk. That's the first thing that someone said because kids, and then my wife's friend bolted towards the house to end the noises that all kids in flotation devices were asking, "What is that?" So in summary, he does not get to select the music anymore for parties. When I was in college, I had 2 roommates and long-distance boyfriend. I was doing FaceTime sex with my boyfriend and my roommates walked in. Full coochie out, no blanket to cover up, searched Heidi Klum nude, Heidi Klum tits, Heidi Klum boobs, Heidi Klum naked. On my aunt's computer when I was babysitting younger cousins. They printed it out and we had a uncle, aunt, mom, dad and 12 years old me meeting to go over the search history and the dangers of pornography. There were way more searches than that, but those are the ones I remember. Love you, Heidi. Sorting myself out while partner was asleep. Was interrupted by him grabbing my arm and saying, "You're okay, I'm right here." Turns out he woke up and thought I was having a seizure. Too many to count honestly, but my favorite one was probably 15 years old. Family computer was in the front room. It was after school and parents were in their room. I figured a quick stroke to relieve some teenage angst. My mom came out unexpectedly and I tried to shut it down and pull pants up in one motion. The computer was old and slow, so it took a second for the page to close, so she saw what I was seeing for a brief second. I got a laptop that Christmas. First time I was ever caught was by my older sister. She usually knocked before opening. Guess she forgot I was 14 or something. Barged in while I'm in the middle of it. All I heard, I was facing away from the door, was a "Hey. Whoa." Door slams shut. "Dad, my name needs a freaking lock," to which he yells back that "Why you knock sister's name Lamau good times." I was at a friend's house a few weeks ago, hanging out with her and her boyfriend. After a late night movie they retired to her room while I stayed in the living room to sleep on the couch. After they were gone a while I figured it was safe to rub one out. I heard a quiet sound a few minutes into my furious rubbing. I opened my eyes to see her Furbo pet camera was on maybe 3 feet away and activated by my movement. It is tied to her phone with notifications on too. I looked directly at it then tried to pretend I wasn't doing that. So yeah, I was accidentally a cam girl for my friends lol. When I was 15 I read that the inside of a banana feels very similar to the inside of a vagina. I craft my masterpiece, this makeshift banana sea, and take it down to our half basement when the con putter is at. Midway through about absolutely going to town on this banana I hear a bang on the window above me and see feet start running. Turns out my best friends decided to come by to hang out but saw I was busy and ran. Told me the next day they hoped I didn't pack a banana for lunch. I got caught jerking off at the family computer at age 13 by my stepdad. His reaction was to get super angry, unplug the computer and call my dad. Upon calling my dad and ratting me out, his face changed pretty abruptly from anger to a frown. He passed me the phone and my dad said I told him to leave you alone, from now on jerk off in your room. My dad gave me a brown paper bag next time he was in town. It had a perfect 10 mag in it. My mom taught me masturbating with a shower head. I was around 8 and had no idea what I was doing. My mom told me not to do that. Remember, you are not getting caught if you continue masturbating. Then they are the pervs you caught watching you. Oh boy, I got a good one. So in NJ you had to pass this test called the HSPA in order to graduate HS. So during 9th and 10th grade you took a practice version. I took my practice freshman year and we didn't get the grades back until the following year. Coincidentally it coincided with a parent-teacher conference that did not exactly make me look like a model student. My parents' response to this was simple yet effective: I was grounded until I passed the real test. Now, this meant no video games, TV, cell phone, hanging out with friends, etc. Now the grounding itself really only lasted a year, but my parents said that I had become such a much more productive member of the family that even when I got my grades up I was still not allowed to play video games, or use a computer, or have a lock on my bedroom door until I moved out. So after I passed the stupid test I actually did pretty good. I was allowed all my privileges back except no lock on your door. Now my father really wasn't keen on the whole no lock thing, but my mother was extremely strong-willed and my father didn't feel like being a soldier all day and then coming home just to go to war with my mother. They are now happily divorced and remarried and in wonderful loving relationships. I'm very happy for the both of them. But one day I was enjoying myself when I heard the front door of the house open. I freaked the hell out because I heard my dad drop his keys in the bowl and I knew he'd be coming straight to my room to chat. I really missed the days where we lived together and got to hang out so much. I jumped out of my desk chair, ran to the door and threw my entire weight against it as he was opening it. Now mind you, my computer is directly in front of my door and had he opened the door he would have seen the incredibly weird fetish porn I was looking at. He asked me to open the door and I just kept yelling, "Father, I am in a state of undress." I have no idea why the fuck my brain chose those words to come out because I have never called him father in my life. Nor do I speak like a weird Victorian-era child. After the second or third time I yelled it through the door, he walked away and I quickly dressed myself and yanked the power cord out of the back of the PC. Perhaps a slight overreaction. A moment later he knocked on my door and said, "Son, are you still in a state of undress?" Then laughed hysterically and cracked the door open enough to throw a doorknob lock through the cracked door onto my bedside table and said, "For whenever you feel like being in a state of undress you might need this, my beloved child." He then laughed and walked away. I'm pretty sure I put that new doorknob on and cranked out like 4 loads over the course of the next 20 minutes. It was an amazing day. Holy crap, I really didn't think that this post would bring laughter to so many people. Thanks for all the upvotes. In college I lived in a house with about 15 other people. One day my housemate Claire came bounding into my room. I heard her coming just in time to put everything away ahem. As she entered, she asked, "Why are you just sitting there? And why is your computer off? And why is your face so red?" And then it all clicked for her. Oh, you were jacking at that grin. If you have seen the SpongeBob episode where Squidward tries a Krabby Patty for the first time and later SpongeBob catches him enjoying them, asks a series of questions, gets it, then says, "You like Krabby Patties, don't you?" You know exactly what I mean. Beat for beat, it went down exactly like that and we still laugh about it. Love you, Claire. Didn't get caught masturbating, but this was fun. I was like 11 when I got a PC back in 2001 from my grandpa. I fiddled around with it, and got a CD from a friend the day before with some naughty videos. I was transferring a video to the desktop, some lesbian fun. As it was done, my grandpa walked into my room and started looking on the screen. "Are you happy with your new PC?" Then looked at the file, reading the title out loud. I instant just put my hand on the screen thinking like, don't read that. He just looked at me and smiled, and he kept the bro code. Didn't tell my mom or anything. Thanks grandpa, RIP. Not masturbating, but watching porn. I was very young and was sitting on the couch with a laptop watching porn. I just learned of it and for some reason, I kept the volume at like 5 and then after a while, my mom asks, "What are you doing?" And I responded, oh, I'm playing a video game and a female character got shot, so she made a grunting sound. I don't think she bought it, but that doesn't matter. There was a steaming hot cup of tea on my bedside table when I opened my eyes and took my headphones off. Wasn't me, but a friend of mine decided to masturbate fully naked in his living room. Legs open, porn on, etc., as he had a free house. He then heard a tapping on the window and his grandmother was staring at him through the glass. This actually happened. When he told us all, we all fell about laughing. I live in an apartment, so anyone could walk behind my apartment and look inside the rooms. I left my curtains open, not thinking anyone would come up TP my window. While I was going at it, this older lady just stared at me and then asked if I have seen her cat because her tracker says the cat is in my apartment or the apartment upstairs. I felt too weird to continue masturbating. Get ready, y'all. So I was 13, puberty hit like a bitch and got used to masturbating every alternate night. And not just any masturbate, I mean actually grinding against the bed and fingering myself. Dad walks in, sees me squatted beside the bed at 2 a.m. Turns the light on. Sees me doing my thing with full setup. The floor is wet, so am I kinda situation. Says this and I quote, "Be quieter next time." Turns the light off and walks away. I was probably 14. My brother was around 24-25 at the time. Late 80s, I had hijacked the VCR for my room. No one really cared, so I kept it in my room. One night I woke up to porn being played and I could see the shadow on the wall of my brother going to town. I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Never spoke a word of it. Slightly traumatizing. Lol. Going back more than 20 years for dial-up internet when you had extra charges for adult websites you connected to. Yeah, mom didn't appreciate 13 Yomi raking up a $500 bill. When I was 14 years old, at night around 11 p.m., I put my dick in my bed between the mattress and I was thrusting my bed cause I was mad horny. Then, I thrusted my bed, too hard and too fast, and the skin on my cock ripped. It was immensely painful. My nuts started bleeding like mad, so I grabbed it and tried walking quietly to the bathroom. In the bathroom, I am holding my bleeding penis in NY hand and trying to wipe all the blood off of it. Then, to my surprise, my mom is behind me, and she sees me by the toilet holding my Johnson while it is pouring blood. She asked me, "What are you doing?" My monkey brain quickly thought of a response, and I said, "I'm just masturbating." And then I closed the door. We haven't ever talked about it. Okay, so this isn't me, but I think it applies. We have a guy named Slappy at work. How did he get this nickname, you ask? Well, it's because Slappy jerks off in the public bathroom, every single day. When Slappy was finally addressed by management, he provided a doctor's note stating that it was a necessary daily act for him to help with his PTSD. So if you're ever wondering if it's possible to get a doctor's note to jerk off at work, apparently it is. I tried on a condom when I was younger and threw it away. The guy my mom was dating at the time yelled for like 2 weeks about who the fuck tries on a condom. My childhood wasn't very happy. When I was 13, I had a Nokia with the power button at the top. My dad came into the bathroom after it was taking too long and his first thought was to look at what I'm doing on my phone. While sitting there super stressed out that he's going to catch me watching porn, he ushes down on the top corner on my phone and shuts the phone off. Thank fuck the site was taking a long time to load mobile data days. Hope this counts. But one cold morning I was laying on my stomach watching cartoons. My hands were cold AF, so to warm them up I put them around my crotch as it was the warmest spot. As my dad walked past my room he noticed my position, and thought I was slapping the goat to rocket power, so he entered the room with the good ol' "Hey there sport" and we had the talk. I was extremely confused and took me a while to figure out why he did what he did. Copy and paste of my response to a similar question a year ago. My parents had just gotten divorced and my mom was absolutely not respectful of my personal space or privacy when I was at her house. One evening I was cranking the ol' hog with headphones on to limit the sound of the porn I was watching. This also prevented me from hearing my mom yell that dinner was ready, her jiggling my locked door handle and then subsequently picking the lock on my door. She barged right into the room, literally pulled the headphones off of my head while I still had my dick in my hand and yelled, "Pull all your pants up, shut off the porn and come eat the fucking dinner I made." It could happen to you cause it happened to me. I didn't have locks on my door in the house. I was maybe 12. Luckily we moved into a new house with locks the next year. But anyway, it was just me and my aunt in the house. She was visiting for the month, and she came in without knocking. I wasn't fully pussy out, but I was under a blanket and I just remember her saying, "Oops, I'll leave you alone," hand over mouth. Then we had the "It's very normal and nothing to be ashamed of but fuck." Glad I didn't have unhinged family members that would try to embarrass me, but still an awful time to be alive, lol. My got caught sex stories are a lot more interesting. My godmother's daughter walked in while I was making a damn video. It was many years ago and I still cringe. Luckily never. I'm too neurotic to leave in loose ends. When I was 18 I was rolling a joint on my bed when my mom suddenly burst in the room. I quickly grabbed the stash close to my groin where I had been rolling and rolled over on my stomach as if I was hiding a boner and yelled at my mom to leave. I didn't realize till I was in that position that I'd basically made the decision in that moment that it was better to be caught masturbating than smoking weed. 1. I was staying with my uncle but there weren't enough beds, so I got my cousin's room. Cousin walked in looking for his charger only to see me wanking it. 2. My college roommate bought a Keyblade and wanted to show it to me so bad that he burst into my room while I was jerking. I was on Skype with somebody having webcam funsies and my roomie decided not to give a shit and kept talking about his Keyblade. I thought it was stupid but the person on webcam thought it was hot. My girlfriend woke up while I was stroking it next to her but didn't say or do anything. Next morning we had outrageous sex. It turned her on big time. I tried it again later and she got mad at me. Was in high school. I had a day off school and my parents were at work, so I decided to go for it and not even bother closing my bedroom door. I did not realize our housekeeper was working that day. She walked in and definitely saw. I just immediately stopped and pretended to sleep. She never brought it up and neither did I. Around 7 or 8, I told my parents I found a new exercise and proceeded to hump the arm of the couch in front of them. I figured since I got sweaty, it was exercise. Woman shrugging. I was a sophomore in college, my roommate was out due to mono, and after drinking a few beers I had horny tunnel vision, so I locked the door, got my tissues, and didn't notice that a football player friend of mine had come into the room when I was out of the room, drinking, and laid on my roommate's bed, saying nothing, while I treated myself in the dark. Then, as I cleaned up, I noticed him on the bed, while I stood there my dick in my hand. He said, "Don't worry, I won't make you transfer." He did this to 2 other of my friends, and watched and then waited until the end to tell us he was there. Creepy AF. I was in my then fiance's house. His mom was at home, I was upstairs in his room, he was at work. I decide to make myself comfortable in front of the computer, put some headphones on, my legs on the desk and pick a good video. I'm about halfway through when something at the periphery of my vision moves. It is the window cleaner with a massive grin on his face. I was trying to mirror my screen to my bedroom TV, but accidentally mirrored it to the living room TV. Didn't even realize it, thought it just wasn't working when my brother barges through the door. It was locked, but easy to break into, and says that's one of my go-to videos, and then he just walks out. My folks never respected closed doors. Would use my room like extra storage and just blitz in whenever. I was like 13 or so, male vigorously wanking. My dad bursts in the room. I obviously jerking off, shoot my pants up red as a tomato, sit up and hunched over like someone with a spinal issue, awkwardly waddle my ass out the room making God knows what kinda excuse. The day after my dad says, "Don't ever let me catch you doing that again," I turned bright red once again, thinking we just forgive and forget it. I had nothing to say besides a pathetic mhm and head nod. The whole reason I lock my door and wait till nighttime now. My roommate knocked on my door and asked what I was doing. I said masturbating, but in a kind of funny and proper way. She didn't believe me, came in, and I just kept going, blamed her because she came in. Lol. She just laughed and left. It actually felt pretty great, like tickled a bit of a fantasy to be semi-willingly caught like that by a semi-willing person. I was proud I had the composure to just keep it going, haha. After 18 days in rehab I just couldn't take it anymore. Left dinner early, went to my room, thought about my cute neighbor and her body, and went to town. 2 seconds after I shot my load I reached for a tissue and my roommate walks and looks at me and walks out. He confronted me about it later and I didn't deny it. My mother caught me. I stopped by the house to drop the car off, and I went inside for a few minutes. Nobody was there, they're supposed to be working. First she screams, "George, what are you doing?" My God, and it looked like she was gonna faint. She started clutching the wall, trying to hang onto it. I didn't know whether to try and keep her from falling, or zip up. When I was in 9th grade, I was wanking in the bathroom when this kid everyone knows as weird from 7th grade slides his phone onto the cubicle and takes a photo. Got a restraining order, lol. Was staying in an apartment that only had a narrow walkway between buildings. There was a window almost directly across from my room, but there was always a curtain that stayed closed. One evening I was lying in bed stroking, and after a bit, I realized there was an unusual light coming in through my open curtain. Realizing it was only shining on my lower regions, I moved a little so I could what it was. There was a woman next door watching me intently. I was actually very turned on, so I kept going and quickly came. I waited a little bit and the light got dimmer, so I got up and went to the bathroom to clean up. When I came back, I decided to get a better look into the room, and there, on the bed, this woman is naked and furiously masturbating. She was probably only 10 feet away and it was actually really sexy, and I realized she had gotten turned on watching me. I didn't want her to see me, so I watched from a dark corner until she was done and she turned the lights off. I was excited to get home, decided to see what happened if I did the same thing. Sure enough, the light came on around the same time. It was just the overhead light in her room, and there she was again, except now, she was naked and masturbating, leaning against the window. I turned a little so she had a better view of me and I could see her. I decided to go for it and got brave and got up on my knees and faced her. She paused for a moment and I thought for sure that would be the end of it. I waved and smiled and kept going. She smiled and did the same. I had an amazing orgasm, and I think she did too, because I worked odd shifts. I only ran into her outside a couple times, but she was always embarrassed and quickly went inside. But we ended up sharing that experience a few more times before I had to move for a job. Great memories. Luckily, when my parents renovated our house, I was just getting into puberty, and they had installed a lock on my bedroom door. So luckily, I never got actually caught masturbating, but my parents would occasionally knock on the door during my sessions. I would tell them to hang on and that I was getting dressed. I'm sure they had an idea when they would hear my bed squeak and my feet hit the floor to go to my dresser in a rush after they knocked. And my mom once found my cum rag whilst cleaning my room for me. I told her I would spit loogies into it. Not sure if she believed me or not. When I was a kid, I used to use lingerie catalogs for porn. I'd leave them in the bathroom under the sink, and they were never found. One day, my mother actually did find them, not 10 minutes after I departed the bathroom from a FAP session, and since there was no one else home, it was obvious that they were there because of me. I blamed it on my brother, and successfully got him grounded. Religious upbringing. Zero punishment for me, honestly, my most embarrassing one. I was 20. I was working an overnight shift as a security guard for a factory which was often quiet and not much work to do but watch videos or play games on my phone. Sometimes if I really needed to, I would go to the bathroom to relieve some stress. No worries though, it was one of those regular bathrooms you walk in and lock. Not one of those with stalls. However, on multiple occasions the door would have issues and wouldn't lock properly. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Well, about a minute or two in and I'm just about to finish, one of the supervisors in the factory comes rushing and pulling the door open. Here I am sitting on my jacket on the floor, everything out in plain sight. We lock eyes until he has one of those "oh fuck, someone's in here" kind of moments. There's no way I could just be like, "hi, yeah, sorry, I was just down," no excuses. I was so embarrassed. I still think about when I have those 2 a.m. thoughts and I cringe. No one ever knew to. To make matters worse, there's only like 6 women who worked there, including myself, versus 400 men. Just grateful it wasn't someone who didn't have bad intentions, I guess. When my ex-M and I had separated, I continued to sleep by the bedroom and he slept on the couch. I was doing my thing under the blanket using just my hand, and X walked in to ask me a question. Luckily I had never orgasmed with him before, so he had no idea what the expression on my face was about. My mom had just had the conversation with me about me locking my door so often. So, I stopped locking my door. One day during one of my sessions, my mom came to put shoes in my room. She opened the door, looked me right in the eyes as I was climaxing, and shut the door immediately. I waited for a couple hours to go upstairs because what do I even say? Next thing I know, I'm upstairs acting normal but panicking inside, and I say, "Well, I guess you know the importance of locking a door." Spent the night at my grandparents' house when I was 13. My grandparents always went to bed early and left me out to watch TV. Found some softcore porn shit on the movie channels, and at about midnight started spanking my shank on the living room couch. A few minutes and Grandpa woke up to pee, and came out to check on me. We made about 4 seconds of really awkward eye contact and he just grunted at me. Never said another word of it. Never confronted me about it. But could never go to another family gathering without knowing that he knew. Sister walked in on me full mast, mid-pump, and we just lock eyes. It was so awkward, all I could say was I had an itch. I was like 11, that excuse still bothers me, I should have just honed it. She walked in my room after all. Not I, but an uncle at Thanksgiving thought it would be a great idea to cast his phone to the TV to show us old videos and baby pics of all the grown-up kids, only to accidentally open up his browser that immediately started playing porn. It was single-handedly the biggest collective gasp I've ever heard. When I was young, around 6 years old or so, I figured the pleasure of what a clit does. Also had a friend neighbor whose brother had a lot of hentai in his room, and I'd masturbate with my dolls, and one day I had brilliant idea to see if I could feel good all day and keep my doll between my legs, and on the way getting out of the car into the school my doll fell and my mom thought it was hilarious. I tried to sneak a doll into school when in reality I was just trying to get off. Crying face, crying face, Crying face. My mom till this day sometimes remind me how I tried to sneak a doll into school, and in my mind I'm like, not it, but we don't need to have that convo. I got caught when I was 10 and my grandma screamed at me and called me a whore. Also she said that masturbating is as bad as killing people. Skull was staying at my friend's and he went out. I decided to have a tug and well, his sister walked in, just smiled and walked back out, and she never mentioned it. My ex caught me a few times. We had a dead bedroom, so I needed to sneak a few bigos where I could. One was while I was watching Insman movie. He left to go poop, or so I thought, walked in on me a few minutes later and commented on how it was a little weird to masturbate to Wolverine, turned around and closed the door. You can bet your ass I continued and finished, smiley face. I was on a road trip, the first outing with my mom's boyfriend. I was 16 at the time. Had a great time in his vintage Mercedes. He had to make a stop, so I stayed in the car. One thing led to another, and in mid-stroke I heard a tap on the car window. Fully busted, we drove home, an hour-plus trip, in total silence, and it was never discussed. I would tell my mom I was going to sleep and go off to my room to enjoy some porn on my laptop. This was to get my mom to leave me alone because she was often asking me to get her things or wanting to talk to me. Unfortunately, my dad likes to point out stupid stuff and started pointing out every time I was on the laptop that a light would light up on the router. Well, this sunk in for my mom, and when I used my going to sleep excuse, she started yelling that she knew I was awake and would ask me for something. Luckily, she never came in, but she didn't seem to realize what she caught her son doing. My easy solution was to just move something in front of the router. I got home drunk and went to bed, put on an erotica channel and whipped my willy out. Did not came or anything, but my TV was off the morning after and my mom told me she turned it off. Turns out I fell asleep without blankets and my dick out. Not me, but growing up in a small town, a rural WV, anytime the EMTs were called, everyone found out why or how. In the 90s, a girl was having relations with a hot dog, and a piece broke off inside her. Being uneducated about sex, or her anatomy, she panics and tells her parents. Her parents, being equally uneducated, and not sure what to do, call 911. The EMTs come to her room and assist her to get everything out. Fortunately for her, no one made it an issue once word got around about it. Sure, folks would embellish the story with each retelling, but her ego wasn't totally bruised. Part of me feels the whole community may have avoided a Carrie-type incident since she wasn't shamed by the community for what happened. My fucking sister busted in my room drunk thinking it was her room, man, bro. I was stroking that shit, lights on, porn playing on my TV, bro. I haven't been right since. I almost wish I had gotten caught. It was vice versa. Got home early from high school, walked to mom's room, pushed open the door to find my mother, naked, mid-orgasm, enjoying a vibrating toy. Lots of awkward silence at dinner that night. Thankfully mine is a tad less embarrassing because the only time I've been caught was by my boyfriend, who I'd lived with for 2 years already. I was kind of trying to initiate him, but he didn't seem interested, so I watched the rest of whatever episode we were watching and then said I was really tired and went to our room, shut the door, got all cozy under the blankets and then got out my vibrator. I was doing my thing for about 30 seconds when the door opened. I looked at him wide-eyed and made what I could only explain as the ultimate oh shit face. My vibe was one of those ones where you have to hold the button down for 3 seconds before it turns off, so he definitely heard it for a second or two while I was just frozen there staring at him, lol. He just grinned really big and asked, "What are you doing?" To which I quickly responded, "Nothing," and frantically hid my vibe under my pillow. He saw my dresser drawer wide open and just said oh, and then started giggling like a child and saying, "I caught you, ooh, oh." I was really embarrassed, but I couldn't help but laugh too. He still brings up the look on my face when he first opened the door and we laugh about it a lot. I was like 14, had my first smartphone and enjoyed the internet, and I forgot closing that one tab in the browser. Next day we went to a birthday party and my mum randomly asked if she could look something up because she forgot her mobile. I didn't think anything about that, and yeah, she opened the browser, saw some boobs and asked me what that is, and I hastily took my phone, closed the browser and was like, "Ah, a friend sent me that, haha." Yep, I know that she knows that I know that she knows that I was jacking off and that I had seen this video she shortly got to look at. I got a call from my sister, saying, "Mom found some stuff in my room, I need you to say it's yours." I asked her what it was, and she wouldn't tell me. Later when I got home from work, my mom said, "Your sister says you left a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition under her pillow. Is that true?" Anyway, that's how I found out my sister was gay. I was like 12 or something and my mom came in and got mad, and my dad was just like, "She's at that age. It's really not that big of a deal." But then my mom, who was heavily drinking, decided to tell me that I stink and that no guy is gonna want me and that masturbating is bad and just disgusting, so I felt really bad. LMFAO. My girlfriend's pastor father was housing us for a month for her grandmother's funeral. I was down in the basement, seemingly alone in the house when I started reading the saucy part of a novel. I pulled it out and started and he just walked right in. The funny part is, he took a step back, then proceeded to make small talk with me about the weather, and other various nonsense. I had pulled back the book to cover myself, but he just wouldn't leave. He kept talking out of, getting caught as a rookie move. When I first learned about masturbating I could only last like a minute, and I couldn't produce sperm so there was no mess. Well, one day my mom is in the kitchen cooking and I'm in the living room on the computer. I think she's distracted. I think I can do it without getting caught. At this point I didn't know much about porn other than it could give your computer viruses, so I was afraid to go to a porn site for that, and the myth that porn sites charged you just to go to their sites, so it would show up on the bill. So I go to Google and look up Virginia, then Ladies Virginia, then Pamela Anderson's Virginia. None gave me what I was looking for, but just the thought had already got me ready, so I started. Well, my mom sees me looking at a picture of Pamela Anderson, doesn't recognize her, but just sees a half-naked woman and loses her shit. I told her I looked up something else, can't remember what, but she didn't believe me. I lost computer, TV and light privileges. Luckily my mom knew pretty much nothing about computers and goes to work the next day and tells her friend she works with about the situation. This woman took my side and was like, it's not his fault, Google searches are fucked. If you search Catwoman, there's a chance one of the first pictures will be Catwoman naked. So when she got home she apologized and let me out of my room and gave me my privileges back. This isn't even my story, but a friend of mine's moved in with his grandparents in the 6th grade. His grandpa was about 80 at the time and I imagine not getting it on anymore. Well, there was a computer room in the basement and we always say his grandpa on the computer in there. One day we decided to check the search history of the computer, and typical of an 80-year-old man, he didn't delete anything. Never seen so many back-to-back links of Pornhub before then. I couldn't blame him. RIP to the GOAT. I was having a wank and forgot to shut the curtains. Nosy neighbors. I have several, as I suspect most who were very horny teens with a more dick, less brains attitude do. So I'll reel of the most recent, which happened when I was about 22. At the time I worked in an office, however it's important to note that the job required me to often get up from the desk to meet people. The company hired out equipment and I was required to get it for the person and give them the brief run through, sign the paperwork, then give the reception desk their stuff, etc. etc. A lot of the time people would come in early, late for their pickup, or even just entirely unannounced. It's important to note this because it explains why getting one of those random boners at my desk was a problem. It was a really quiet day in the office, maybe 2 or 3 people in, so I figured the best thing would be to go take care of myself in the toilets and then it would go away and I wouldn't need to worry about it. So I did pretty much that, asked the only other employee there if she'd listen out for the phone while I went to the bathroom, walked into a stall, found some choice material, and put my headphones in and got to the act. I must have been taking a lot longer than I realized because the woman from before came into the bathroom to check if I was okay. I presume she knocked and called out both before entering the bathroom and then after, but I didn't hear. She knocked the stall door, but I couldn't figure out if I was just imagining it, like when you think someone's calling your name when you listen to music. So then she pushed the door open, which I had left unlocked in haste, and that was that. I scrambled to cover myself and she made a swift exit going, sorry. We didn't speak the rest of the day and I think I was probably blushing from embarrassment as much as she was. That evening she texted my work phone to apologize again and said she just didn't know what to do or say at the time. We joked about it here and there over the next couple weeks, and after a bit I asked her out. We had a couple dates, but it didn't go anywhere. Not enough in common really, and both agreed that it was a big risk to date in the workplace anyway. Left that job for a better position elsewhere a few months later and haven't seen talk to them since. After reading this shit, I'm already farther down a rabbit hole than I thought possible. I need to quit scrolling Reddit. Buckle the fuck in, because this is the story of how I almost died and managed to fap in the hospital. I got ratted out by my heart rate. The year was 2012. So I thought I had a bad cold. A week goes by, my dick stops working and I am not feeling any better. So I go to the ER to get checked out. Oh, it's just a cold, go home. 2 weeks later I can barely breathe. Walking is a chore, I can't eat, I can't sleep. My dick still doesn't work. So I call a cab, and practically pour out of it and hobble my way into the ER. It's probably like 11 p.m. I am immediately put under observation in a processing room. Well, whatever the room was, I was the only one in there, even though it was open concept with several beds. There's a nurse's station around the corner and down the hall. Hours go by, I'm alone, I'm scared, I haven't had anyone come check on me in a bit. My fucking dick works out of nowhere. I am literally on the verge of dying and my dick is like a, one last go man? So fuck it. I snap one out. What I'm forgetting is that I'm hooked up to all sorts of sensors, so as I'm getting closer and closer, rates are rising until I finally get out what I thought was my last hurrah, and the rates plummet. Then I hear fucking laughing. Like 2 or 3 different voices. My vitals are reporting back to the nurse's station. These women totally fucking knew exactly what the fuck I was doing and were laughing it off, I guess. So obviously I didn't die. I did spend 6 days 3 in isolation because they weren't sure what the fuck was wrong with me at first and suspected TB in the hospital with a horrible bout of bacterial pneumonia. Had I waited much longer I probably would have just fucking died at home, and possibly without coming ever again. No regrets lol. I was in the shower, eyes closed, head back, stroking away. Was getting close, opened my eyes, roommate best friend's girlfriend was peeing, looked right at me. Instantly started to soften, embarrassed AF. She said, "Finish, it's cool." Instantly hard again and shot. She wiped, flushed, cold rush in shower. Lol, we never said a word, but she would give that smile every now and then and I would get embarrassed. Backstory: we lived in a 1-bath apt sliding glass shower. She had a key and roomie was on his way home from school. I locked the bathroom door from then on. I was home alone, age 13. Decide to rub one out on the toilet, then drop a deuce after I was done. In my haste to stroke the salami I forgot to lock the door. I finished flogging the one-eyed wonder weasel, when my dad came home and opened the bathroom door. He asked, "What are you doing?" To which I replied, "Taking a dump." To which his last response was, "Then why is your dick hard?" My friend asked me to watch her shop for a couple of days whilst she was out of town. It was based out of a granny flat attached to her home. A customer walked in on me wanking on the floor of the shop. I was 36, was home from college. My girlfriend and I both went to a small university in Ohio. She was from Maryland and I was from California. Anyway, we were home for a break. It is dinner time and I quickly finished dinner with my brother, just started college and parents, and head to my room. I get a text from the girlfriend that she is free to talk, so I call her almost immediately because she is 3 hours ahead. I mention the time difference because it helps explain what happens next. Anyway, I call her and she has just gotten in bed and tells me she wants to have phone sex. It is only like 7 p.m. my time, but who am I to say no, right? So, I get into my bed and get under the covers. In a few minutes we are talking about what we would be doing if we were together and both masturbating. She is aware that I am jacking off and it is getting pretty hot. Apparently I forgot to lock my bedroom door, though, because in walks my brother with dessert. I dropped the phone. Thankfully I at least had the intuition to be under the covers. The whole thing was super awkward. He just dropped the dessert on my bed and left. I get back on the phone with my girlfriend and tell her what happened. She asks if I am okay and everything will be okay. I am kind of bummed, but we decide to finish ourselves off and get off the phone. Then I return the plate and everyone just stares at me, making me feel like shit. Bear in mind that I am in my early 20s at this point and will graduate in like a year. It would make sense that I have a sex life. Yeah, my family of origin are kind of jackasses. You should hear what they have put my wife through. I don't really have much of a story for this one. I was mid-climax when my dad walked in. I quickly leaned forward, which tucked my business back in, and had my shirt over my jeans. I doubt he necessarily saw anything, but the brief pause he took before telling me what he needed to tell me, I don't remember what it was, probably asking me to take out the trash, tells me he likely put 2 and 2 together. Either way though, my parents began knocking after that. Years later, my sister would tell me that at some point, my dad came and told her to start knocking before entering my room. That if she didn't, she would probably see something she wouldn't want to. I suspect it was probably later that same day lol. I had just broken up with my GF and was living back with my parents. I had one of those suction clit toys and I was letting it do its work between my legs. Before I could react, my mom laid down next to me to tell me about her day. Well, biology is biology and my body decided to still finish. While my mom is blabbing on about her day, I just had to quietly take it until she left. My mother came in right as the woman in the video said, "Come for mommy," and as I started coming all over myself. Most embarrassing moment of my life, and it ruined my 25th birthday. When I was a dumb and horny kid, my family took a vacation to the Caribbean, and there was a long line at the Miami airport, so I just said, "I'm hitting the restroom and I'll be back in a few." While I was sitting on the can, I got bored, so I decided to quietly rub one out. This old man came through and was checking to see if there was anyone in the stall, and he completely saw me with my hard dick in my hand, having a go at myself. I know because I could, even through the crack in the stall door, see the complete shock on his face, and the fact that he took another peek just to be sure. I've never told anyone this in person, but I was 14-15. Going through wanking stage. My mom's boyfriend of less than a year decided to try and bond or something and decided to join me on the PS2 playing Need for Speed Underground 2 anyway. At one point he offers to make me a cup of tea. I decided this was the time for a danger wank. Didn't manage to beat the kettle. He walks in and we make a startled glance at each other and he goes back out, taking my cup of tea with him. Must have been about 8 hours before I went and got that cup of tea. God, this is embarrassing. Never thought I'd tell this, but here we are. I was about 12 or 13 years old at the time. I only had a flip phone while everyone else had the usual iPhone 6 or 7. But, like all other tweens, I was irritably horny. I found a way to get on the hub through my flip phone and used it. I was sitting on the floor of my bedroom pantsless going at it when my dad walked in and said, "What are you doing? Why aren't you wearing pants?" The worst part was that he would not just get the hell out of my room for whatever reason. So I just decided to stare at him blankly, legs crossed, flip phone in hand, until he finally said, "Well, dinner's ready," and walked away, leaving the door wide open. Why? I have no fucking clue. I honestly am still mad about it to this day. He likes to be a douche on purpose all the time and I just know this whole interaction was him yet again being a douche for his own shits and giggles. Anyways, he's really my stepdad, so it was even more uncomfortable. I still feel every muscle in my body cringe when I think about it. I got caught masturbating with a disarmed revolver by my mother. Can't remember what the fuck I said, but I got away with it, so I kinda did mine backwards. One day I missed the bus for school, so I walked downstairs to ask my father for a ride. There he was just going at it. I'm not sure what my reaction was, but he quickly pulled up his pants and covered the computer. Most awkward car ride ever. To this day I make sure I make a bunch of noise going down my stairs even though I live alone. This is a horrible story too, but I didn't even do anything. I was accused of it. Crying face. So my dad thought I was stealing cigs, so he went to look for them and found my freaking toys. And if that's not humiliating enough, that cat had pissed on the couch and he thought I did stuff on the couch. Not mine, but it's gold. One of my school friends told another one that fucking a jar of honey is same feeling like putting it in the vagina. One day after school dude brought jar of honey into the bathroom and started doing it. He was almost at the peak, but dude forgot to lock his doors. While he was doing it, his grandma opened the doors and he panicked and dropped the jar on the floor. He told her that he was hungry and ate some honey. Lol. One day at work I just felt the urge. Rubbed one out in the employee restroom while watching porn on my phone. 20 minutes later I get a call that our operator dispatch has my phone. Go to get it and this a 6'5" transgender Samoan gives me the most oddly seductive "here you go." Look down at my phone and big titty Asian cougar fucked is still queued up on my lock screen. Preempted that aftermath by telling my department about it.